Hello, and welcome to my October TBR video. So for the month of October, I am hoping to read, I think I have it narrowed down to 13 books. There are a group of people who celebrate VICTOBER, which is basically Victorian literature that you read in October. There are a group of women who have created prompts to go along with those choices, and I have chosen a few books that fit into that prompt. So for VICTOBER, they have chosen to read The Doctor's Wife by Elizabeth Braddon. It seems like a pretty thick book. They're asking people to read 3 chapters a day. I actually can't find that book in my library, and I'm actually having trouble finding used copies on thrift books, so I am not sold that I'm going to be reading that, so I'm not counting that in my TBR. I am, however, going to read some books for the prompt. So one of the prompts that they have is that religion plays a part, and I picked up The Vicar of Bullhampton by Anthony Trollope last year. It's also pretty long. It's about 500 pages, but it does have illustrations, so not sure if that will help. So in this, we follow, you guessed it, the vicar. They live in the Wiltshire village of Bullhampton, and we get a full viewpoint of the village from the vicar. So in this, we have a quarrel, a murder, a fallen woman, a love triangle. So really getting into that gritty human nature that Trollope does so well. It says on the back here that this is very much like a Jane Austen-esque novel. So it'd be interesting to see if I also get that feeling as well. I have read one other Trollope last year for VICTOBER, and I'm excited to dive into this. For the form prompt, I am going to read The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I managed to get the literary book box subscription for Halloween. It's one of their mini boxes in which you receive a book. This is a Chiltern version, so it's got that beautiful cover. And then there are as you read gifts. So it will have a little sticker on it that says once you get to page whatever, open this gift. And so I have not read any Henry James, and I'm excited to read that for this VICTOBER prompt. Another prompt is that the book was published serially, which means in parts, and according to, again, the well-read ladies who lead us in VICTOBER, The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins fits into that prompt. And I am definitely going to read that this month because this is actually our book choice for our Cozy Reader book club. This is also about 500 pages and the print is really small, so I really need to get started on this soon, but this was on my TBR list last year and I didn't get to it, and so I'm excited. So in this we follow Walter Hartwright. I love how Wilkie Collins has the names kind of tied to what you're thinking is going on as far for the character. So he is Hartwright, and he encounters this solitary woman who I'm assuming is the woman in white in a moonlit night north of London, and she's in distress, and so he's going to try to help her and uncover the mystery that is surrounding her. That's all I know, and I'm excited to finally read this. For my middle grade choices, I chose 2 books that I'm really excited about. I have Ava Ibbetson's The Secrets of Platform 13. My understanding with this is that this was a huge impetus for the Harry Potter books. Every 9 years, for 9 days, there is a platform in London's train station that is open that can get you to a specific island. And it's carefully hidden, it is shrouded in magic, but one year someone ends up getting kidnapped, and so fae and ogres and all kinds of creatures end up in London trying to save whomever is kidnapped. I've read one other Ava Ibbetson for our homeschool, which is Journey to the River, I think, and that was much more historical fiction, so I'm excited to read one of her fantasy novels. Then I have The Whisperwicks, The Labyrinth of Lost and Found by Jordan Lees. This, I think, is inspired by Jason and the Minotaur. And in this, we follow a boy named Benjamin who ends up in a magic land called Wreathen World. There is this understanding that Wreathen World is not a safe place. It's dangerous. It's sort of a labyrinth setting. And not only is Benjamin kind of stuck in this world and in an adventure, he is connected up with Elizabeth, whose brother Edwin had gone missing years before. It has to do with a crack in the wall. There's obviously a sinister force, and I am really looking forward to reading this. I love that this has the purple sprayed edges. It also has illustrations. There actually is a map in the back. This is supposed to be part of a series, so I'm excited to dive into this. I wanted to make sure that I included a cozy theme in my choices. I went into backlist choices, did a little bit of research, and ordered some books on Thrift Books. So I recommend Sarah Addison Allen in a lot of my themed videos. So she's great for First Frost for fall. Garden Spells is great to read in the spring. And I came across The Sugar Queen. I just think the cover is lovely. She typically writes very wholesome, family-oriented sagas that highlight female protagonists who are going through some sort of emotional growth. So in this, we follow Josie. She's almost 30, which I love that it's maybe a little bit of an older protagonist. Josie, I think, is on her own, single, and she comes across a female friend who challenges her, who really wants her to get outside of her comfort zone and to make some changes in her life. And she ends up meeting someone else who apparently has maybe that magical realism connection with books, where she's able to know which books need to find people at what time. And it just, I think, is going to be a heartwarming slice of life tale. Next, I have a Robin McKinley. I have read a couple of her books. She is a fantasy writer, generally cozy and pretty heartwarming, nothing that's too jarring, at least in my experience. And so I chose Sunshine. This actually has a quote from Neil Gaiman on the cover, so it might be a little bit creepier than I think, but again, she's pretty known for being not too spooky, so I'm hoping that's true. So in this, we follow Sunshine, and Sunshine gets abducted. She gets left, I think, as a gift to a vampire, and she fully expects to not make it through the night, but she does. This, I think, is her tale of getting to know this vampire. I think it's a love story. It will have magic in it because that's what Robin McKinley is known for. She does a lot of fairy tale retellings, and so we'll see. I'm excited to dive into this. I didn't know that Robin McKinley wrote a vampire story, so we'll see if it actually is cozy. Next, I have Pros and Cons by Amanda Flower. I read the first book, Crime and Poetry, earlier this year, and I did a video on cozy mysteries and included that in it. And something that I love about Amanda Flower is that one of my viewers let me know that she had been a librarian, so I went down a rabbit hole of her background, but she includes literature in there. So I think this one is Henry David Thoreau is the author who was highlighted. In the first one, it was Emily Dickinson, but I think it's Thoreau in this. And we have a bookshop that is magical, so it's in the series of a magical bookshop mystery. We have a young lady, Daisy, who is now living back with her grandmother, helping to run the bookshop. There it might be a little bit of a love triangle, but I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear who the love interest is. And I just love the literature aspect of it. I love the mystery and the coziness. It's not usually really gory, and it is set in October. Next, I have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a murder mystery wrapped in fantasy. And so we have an investigator who has these supernatural abilities to just be able to figure out what's going on. I think she wears a blindfold and is still able to figure things out. She now has a partner who's helping her. He kind of thinks she's not good at what she does, but he's realizing as he spends more time as her assistant that she actually does have a really good intuition and seems to be able to figure things out. And so we have an empire that is in a fantasy world building situation, but we also have a murder mystery. And I have checked this out from the library and then returned it and then checked it back out. So I'm excited to read a detective novel that is also fantasy. I found this in a little free library, which I considered to be a really great score. The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. He's supposed to be like Narnia. There are two boys. It's Jeremy and Rafe who go into this forest and they end up missing for 6 months. They return. Rafe becomes a recluse. Jeremy becomes this famous investigator. Well, it turns out Emily's sister goes missing in this same forest. And Jeremy and I think Rafe get involved. There are a lot of secrets. There's a lot of hidden information that people are not sharing with each other. And while it's supposed to be like Narnia because they end up going to this supposedly magical land, it sounds a lot like Jumanji. I started The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer last year and really didn't get into it, but I am excited to go ahead and give this one a try. For my spooky book choices, which I hope to have the courage for, I went into my TBR list from last year and was able to get some from the library that I did not read then. The one that I know will be spooky is Dracula by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker. This is definitely a chunker. It's also 500 pages. And in this, Dacre Stoker is an ancestor of Bram Stoker, who wrote the original Dracula novel. And I think Dacre's goal in this is to write kind of the origin story of how the story of Dracula came to be, and to also explain a bit about Bram Stoker. And I think the premise of this is that Dracula was a true story. So I've read Dracula. I really enjoyed it. There are quotes on the back from R.L. Stine and Riley Sager, which are horror thriller writers. And so I'm a little nervous about it, but also interested to read this. And then another spooky read is Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I've read this before. And again, as part of the literary book club subscription, I am receiving it along with a main big box with As You Read gifts. I am excited to read it. It is a very creepy abduction stalker story. I also recall when I read it that there was humor as well, which I know is kind of odd to hear. But there are some characters within the theater that are just, you know, I think are meant to be the comic relief in a pretty creepy tale. So I'm excited to reread that as well. The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichak is actually based in Norse mythology. I think there are elements of Slavic folklore. So we have Odin, we have a woman who falls in love with Loki and creates a family. And I think that family setup and her situation becomes tenuous and endangered. I'm not sure if it's exactly creepy, but I do love the Norse mythology background of this. I've heard really great things about it, and so I'm going to try to get to it this month. I would love to hear what you are planning on reading in October, so please feel free to leave that below. And if you've read anything that I am planning to read, also let me know what you thought of it. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time. And in this, we follow a boy named Benjamin who finds a doll that can transform into a bird. This is getting wacky.